Hi everyone, my name is Johan aka Tricky2K, and today I will give you a review, my first review ever, of the latest DLC released for Grid 2, the Performance Pack. This video will be long, but bear with me, you can skip to any part that interests you. I basically wanted to give you a demo of how the car performs, or an estimate on how they perform on two separate tracks. Any future reviews won't be this long. I'll try to keep them short and tidy, about 3 to 5 minutes or so. Alright, the cars. Basically they are Tier 1 cars upgraded into Tier 2. The Chevrolet Camaro C28, the Dodge Charger, the Ford Mustang 1, the BMW Series M Coupe, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, BMW E30, and the free car of the pack, which is the Volkswagen Golf R. I really like that they include one car for free for everyone, so even if you don't have any money and don't want to spend any, you still get a little bit of free content. Yeah, so that's probably sums it up a bit, and let's get down to testing. Alright, starting out with the C28, I'm going to give a little bit more information as we go along these videos. I've chosen two tracks. This is the first one. It's the Red Bull Ring, which is a racetrack. Quite short, features not that much elevation, so power in a car isn't the same factor as it could be on other tracks as the second track of this test, which is, I think it's called Tetsel Valley, Japanese mountain track. Since it's like quite long now, I'm trying to fill out the gameplay with general thoughts regarding Grid 2. You can call it sort of mini review besides this DLC. And I will not dig in deep into every element of the game, but I will try to make up some points. The C28, this car is a drift setup, which means of course it's drift and turns, and it's a little bit trickier to handle than a grippy car. You can oversteer, as you saw me doing there, which will cause you to spin out. So you have to be gentle on the gas, and it also takes a little bit a while to get used to the handling if you're used to grippy cars. Most people have slight problem controlling this car first time they try it out.
Good. Getting an early lead.
Right, first one clocks in at 1 minute 22 seconds .479. I will be giving you the results later on in the video, and I will also include them in the description as well. Next car up is the Dodge Charger. This one is also a drift car, but it's, in my point of view, much easier to control than the C28. I'm not sure, but I think this is the same model that was released back in 1969. I used in the popular TV show Dukes of Hazzard, the General Lee. I'm not sure, but I think it looks like that car anyway. The average feel about this car is that it packs quite the power towards the end gear, so even if you're getting into those last revs, it still feels like it has strong acceleration. And it handles really good as well. So and one of the car I enjoyed the most actually driving in this DLC. So I could highly recommend it. Just to have a fun car to drive. In terms of performance towards other cars, we'll get to that in a bit. Since I also included in this test the Nismo and the Mercedes-Benz C63 AMG on both these tracks. Oh lord, I'm missing this one out. Included them as, you know, to give you kind of idea on how this car performs if you compare it to them.
10-second lead. Let's keep it that way.
This one clocks in at 1 minute 23 second .550. I will include the Nismo. Here we go with the Ford Mach 1, by the way.
Today's race should give you no problems. You've done it.
Sorry, I'm drinking coffee. I included the Nismo and the Benz in two versions. when I do this one, the Red Bull Ring, I will use them non-upgraded as these cars are, since I'm showing you this from single player. I also set the opponents to very easy, just to be able to try and cruise by them as quickly as possible to make a somewhat fair comparison. Do bear in mind, I'm no perfect driver. I don't claim to be. I just try to do like 2 to 6 runs or so with each car on each track, and try to get an average time of each car. Of course, my starting position is a factor, so you have to keep that in mind as well. But you get an idea of how they handle and that sort of thing. This Mach 1 is actually a drift car as well. It's very manageable. The feeling though I have is that this car isn't as fast as the others. Even though it's not by far, still feels less competitive than the other cars. Clocks in at 1 minute 24.784, so it's the slowest out of the car so far. Now don't get me wrong though, it's all about the driver, and I'm sure you can win races in the Mach 1, but against a less skilled driver with a better car, you probably struggle a bit more. Then again, perhaps you like the challenge a bit more to have a slower car. It handles really good, so it's easier to control on an average, but lacks a bit of power and acceleration. Alright, so next car is the BMW Series M Coupe. I'm gonna call it Coupe. I have no idea if that's correctly pronounced. If you haven't already figured out, I'm not a native English speaker. The car is balanced setup, so it's somewhere else in between drift and grip. But in my point, it's more grippy than drifty. Fairly easy to control and get around corners with. Managed to cut that one a little bit too hard. Rear wheel drive, if I'm not mistaken. But it almost at some part feels as it's four-wheel drive, because it's very grippy. Very similar to how the Golf R handles it, in my opinion. Doesn't drift as easy as you see it. Even if you slide a car a bit, it still wants to maintain a straight line as possible. But good acceleration and good power, and all around a good car. 1 minute 22 second .489. Yeah. Next Bimmer in the DLC is the BMW E30, which was an 80s classic and a car that really appeals to me visually. As the 1M, it's set up for balance, but this one is somewhat more to the driftier side. It slides around corners a bit easier than the 1M. Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed with this car. Since I really like it, in terms of style and whatnot. It doesn't perform that well. I thought it'd be faster. But then again, maybe it's strange that the Series M Coupe would be stronger since it's a newer car. But I was quite sure this one was really powerful when it came out, so I was hoping that they tune it to be a bit more competitive. It's a good car though, but it doesn't have the acceleration and the top speed, as you can see on my one. The next car it's coming up. It's gonna be the Golf R. We're just gonna wait for this one to finish. Clocking in 1 minute 23.74 or something. Yeah, 745. The most popular one, the Golf R. It's the free car out of the pack, and this one is the overall, in my opinion, the most popular car in Tier 1 as well. This one is grippy, and it's also 4-wheel drive. So you have to use a lot of e-braking compared to the other cars to get around the sharp corner like that. And he has really good and strong acceleration, and it doesn't really lack the acceleration towards the lost gears as the Golf R might do when Mach's upgraded into Tier 1. Very easy to control, very easy to handle, and I think that's why many people like this car, because it's both easy to learn how to handle, and it's still a fast and good car. E-braking should be avoided, by the way, if you already didn't know, if you're driving drift cars, because e-braking in drift car to get around the corner, if you do it the same way you do with this Golf, you will spin out every time. Works fairly good in Tier 1 and decently on these Tier 1 upgraded into Tier 2 cars.
That's the best time you've ever set on this track.
1 minute 22 seconds .113. But when you get to the other tiers, Tier 2 and Tier 3, you know, real Tier 2 cars, Tier 3 and Tier 4, you can't use e-brake. It's almost impossible. You almost have to be dead stop before you use the e-brake, otherwise you just spin around. So this is the Benz. It's set up for drift. It's quite much more tricky to control than the Tier 1 drift cars, the ones you've already seen. But if you do master the car, I think it's actually faster than the Nismo. It has a little bit stronger acceleration and also top speed in general. Nismo, however, is way faster of the starting line since it has 4-wheel drive. But the downside with this car is that, you know, it's a drift setup car, and it'll take a while to get used to how to handle. You have to be gentle on the gas when you slide around the corners, because if you don't, you tend to give it a little bit too much power, and the car will oversteer and spin around. And the problem is that if the car begins to spin around, there's little to nothing you can do to really, you know, save it. On sometimes you can, but most time you're basically screwed. Whereas in the gripper cars, you can always brake or use e-brake to get back somewhat on the track. Oh yeah, Grid 2's lovely corner cutting. Can someone please explain to me how that was corner cutting? I mean, I didn't cut any corner, I just went off track and then back. So basically what you ought to learn is that, you know, you really have to keep track of those grids outside by the tracks. 1 minute 24.874. So it's almost the slowest car out of the bunch. Even once I check the times. Yeah, actually that was a little bit slower than the Ford Mach 1. So far they are keeping up and doing a good job. But also bear in mind, these are non-upgradable. These comes with pre-installed parts, and the Nismo, which I'm running now, and the Benz are all stock in terms of performance. Yeah, so I have to say this is my favorite car in the game. I think a lot of people keep it as the favorite car as well. It's just a stunner JDM car. I mean, the looks, the performance, I mean, there's nothing how can you not love this car? Basically, I guess if you're not a fan of JDM cars, then it might not appeal to you, but for everyone else this should be one of their favorite cars. And it really shows in the multiplayer lab as well. As soon as people hit level 12, they get the Nismo, and when you hit level 14 you can start upgrading and make it really competitive. It's all about, you know, playstyle and preferences, but this one is definitely one of the fastest cars in the Tier 2, and it's also by far, in my opinion, the easiest car in the whole game to learn how to drive and control. 1 minute 23.978. Moving on to Tetsel Valley. Also, again, just a reminder, I mean, I can do better runs and what's the difference between where I start, and I just keep that in mind. That you know, make like somewhat assumption to their performances. Let's see. Where was I? Yeah. Starting out this time with the charger as I go down the hill, and through the next videos I will speak a little bit more about the game itself. Try this to keep this video a little bit more entertaining. I'm not so sure there's really much to say else about the cars. You can see how they perform here in the videos, and I think should be enough. And then basically because these are already tier 1 cars, so most people should already be familiar with these cars since you just upgraded them to the next tier. Commenting first on Grid 2, I'd like to say I really like this game. It's not perfect in any way, definitely not, but it's really enjoyable. And starting first by touching the single player, I say I'm quite impressed with the variety of the tracks, and I really found them enjoyable. However, what I didn't like was the dumb AI. It wasn't until the last season on some tracks that I actually had some challenge at all. If you're not counting the overtake events early in the game. For some reason, the first ones were actually a lot harder than the last ones that late in the season. And this was all on the hardest difficulty setting. I was expecting, I just tried the game first at normal, did a few races, turning up to hard. I could barely notice any difference at all. Turning up to very hard, and there wasn't really any difference either. Oh yeah, charger clocks in at 2 minutes 1 second .421, and moving on to the Mach 1 right now. But that's that's one of the issues I have with this game. I mean, it's enjoyable, but it's not really enjoyable when the game doesn't offer you any challenge to complete it. The only challenge, as I said, was the early overtake event. I think it took place in Tastsu, which I found was the most challenging one, and also was fairly new to the game and how the mechanics of the handling and so worked. So that, of course, is a huge factor. But basically, on the hardest difficulty setting, you can't hit any object, any car, or go off track. Because if you do, you will lose your multiplier. And if you lose your multiplier, you have no chance of winning the event on the early stages of the game. When you're moving on then and doing the latest overtake events, you can actually mess up like 1 or 2 times and still be okay with it, and still win with by quite a margin. So yeah, kind of weird how the pace, the difficulty setting there. I have no idea. Why did you make the game so hard with overtake rates on the early? I'm quite sure there's a lot of people that got put off by those events just because the first one was so hard compared to the other ones. A little bit unnecessary. I would have liked to see the Japan and Tetsel be probably in the later part of the game instead, and having the Dubai tracks that's first, since they're quite wide and you have no idea where the car is gonna shift lanes or racing lines. Ford Mach 1 actually got a good time. This one clocked in at 2:02.612. So that's fairly competitive, considering I said this is one of the slower cars. Yeah, visual customization, I have to touch that briefly as well. We'll get back to that later on when I'm discussing the multiplayer, but it's cool that you can apply stickers to all of your cars, with sponsor and things, but why can't I remove the stickers from my car? I mean, if I set up my car with stickers, And then I said, alright, I don't want to have these stickers anymore. I want to make a clean look. Then I have to scrap the whole design and start over again. I'm not saying that, you know, it's that much of a hassle. It takes a long time because it's just basically color codes and patterns. But some people probably put in a little bit of work in it. But the thing is, what I don't understand is that, you know, you have this feature in the multiplayer section. Why didn't you include it in the single player? I mean, it makes no sense at all. It's just really, you know, annoying. Because I think a lot of people at first put as many stickers, sponsor decals at the car as possible. And after a while probably decide, okay, this car got a little bit too cluttered. I want to remove them. And how do you remove them? I mean, it's easy in the multiplayer, but at least I haven't found out any way to remove the stickers. Just replace them with other stickers. That's just pointless. Yeah, so that's another thing that annoys me with this game. So let's talk about the multiplayer. The multiplayer is without doubt where you get the most fun out of the game, the most mileage. But it's also by far the most frustrating part of the game. Why is that? Yeah, well, if you've been playing the multiplayer for, I don't know, 10 minutes, hour, or more, you probably already know, because 90%, 95% of all lobbies and 100% of all the playlists uses collision set to on. And that's usually fine until the lobby consists of 6 or more racers, especially on narrow tracks. But on almost every track, the first turn just turns into a ram and crash fest or a clusterfuck. And you can basically get around the corner without crashing into everyone. 202.1006 for the Camaro C28. Yeah, and the damage set to on, and you know, if that happens, I mean, then you're basically you're screwed. You have no chance on completing the race. You probably, you know, maybe manage to dodge 1 car, 2 cars, but then, you know, there's 2 or 3 other guys that tangle up in each other, and they will crash you, deliberately or not. Basically, the best advice I can give to anyone, if you want to survive a little bit longer, if you want to, you know, make it through that pack without trying to, you know, crash too much, and this tip is probably best anyway at all. It's better to go slow than not to go at all.
5 seconds ahead of second place.
Basically, I mean, use brake, let off the gas, you know, try to play it cool, and try to you know, watch the guys ahead of you make the mistakes, because basically when they do crash, you know, they tend to spin, and when they start spinning, people hit the reset button if the flashback option is available. So when they hit the flashback button, you can pass them safely. So I usually try to try, you know, to brake and leave a little space to the opponent ahead of me, or opponents, and try to pass them as they crash, or fail a turn or whatever. It's the easiest way to pass someone in this game without destroying your car or end up, you know, spinning out, because that can be so frustrating. Trying to cut a corner and take someone in the inside, and they bump into your car and makes it spin out instantly. Even if they didn't plan on crashing you and make you spin around, they most likely will. Sure, one can argue about the strategy as well. Oh yeah, the E30 clocks in at 2 minutes. 0.74. So this is actually the fastest car out of the bunch so far. So made it pretty good, even though I said it was a slow car. I'll touch that also briefly in the conclusion. But yeah, back to the damage settings. It gives, you know, a strategy level as well, because you can't just like overtake them like this. I did that with that BMW. You will, you know, crash. So you have to plan it a little bit more. It's a little bit risky to do it like I did, because on the multiplayer the players are not that nice, and they will not break as much as the dumbed down AI does. But yeah, try to avoid crashing as much as possible by braking, and try to pass them when you have much higher speed, and you can make a more safe pass instead of trying to take a chance and hit them on the inside or the outside or whatever in a turn. But if you're lucky, there's some lobbies, some custom event lobbies that uses collision set to off. It's not the fun, you just get a ghostly shot of other people's cars. It basically turns into Trackmania, which uses more or less the same feature. Bam! Straight into the wall. But it's the races that requires skill and skill only, because you can go about your own pace, you can keep your racing lines, you don't have to brake early or brake late and trying to overtake someone. You can just go about mind your own business, and basically the best driver always wins, or the one that makes the least mistakes. I would say, if you're racing with your friends and you're trying to, get the best times on average, collision set to off is a good thing. But in general, I actually enjoy the collision set to on a bit more. Sure, it's frustrating when you're in a full lobby of people that can't drive, or when there are 2 or 3 guys that just want to ram the shit out of everyone. Yes, it's frustrating. And this game has work to be done. First thing is, decrease the lobbies, make them smaller. You will make everyone load faster, and it will, get less clustery at the start.
That's a new personal best for you.
Golf R clocks in here at 1 minute 58.788. So that's by far the fastest one. And now we're moving on to the final stage, the upgraded Tier 2 cars, starting out with the Benz. And as you can see, there's quite a difference in terms of power and acceleration, as this car just flies away from the opponents. Again, this is for the easiest settings, and I didn't get to start out dead last. But you can see coming down into this corner, and if you check the minimap, they're already way far behind. So yeah, there is a huge difference in terms of performance when you upgrade a car. So you will have on certain tracks, especially this track. Oh wait, sorry, I totally forgot. I'm actually doing this with one of my friends. So this is not opponent set to easy. This is one of my friends who just started playing the game. He actually has a Tier 1 car that upgraded into Tier 2. And he doesn't know this track as well. So that's why he's so far behind. He actually meant to beat me another time when I really messed up and crashed like 8 times. But yeah. So you will struggle to keep up with an upgraded Tier 2 cars, because they will be better, and that goes for all the tiers. Cars are best kept in their own original tier. You can be upgraded into the next tier, but I only recommend that if you don't have the money to drop on the car you want, or if you don't have the required level to buy that car. It's a cheap way to get a car into the next tier. But also you will have a car that seriously lacks performance if you compare them to the upgraded cars in their own tier. Looking at time, 1 minute 53 second .337, so that's quite a bit faster. I think it's like 5.5 seconds faster than the Golf. Yeah. Last one, the Nismo, also upgraded. As you can see, this one is also way faster than the other Tier 1 upgraded DLC cars. Yeah. Back to the whole racing thing. Damage on is is the most fun, if you ask me. I'm not a fan of drift events. I got to keep my racing to, you know, strictly race. That is, of course, because I suck at drift, but I don't really find them that funny either. So these videos will be out of racing perspective only, and I'll be focused in multiplayer. Since I don't do any single player leaderboard, I really can't speak of their performance on the leaderboard. So anyone using the leaderboards will please leave a comment regarding these cars in the DLC, and I think they perform in single player compared to the original stock cars. I find them that they should be quite competitive. Could be faster on some track, especially the Golf R performance one. But that thing is free, so it's a good thing it's available for everyone, so that players that are paying aren't given any unfair advantage. I actually do think it's okay to give some players a little bit of advantage on buying DLC. You should get something back for supporting the game, but then again, it wouldn't be fun if you get supercars that, you know, fly past everyone. 1 minute 54.55, and that sums up the racing. So now on to the conclusion. To quickly give you the times, starting with the Red Bull Ring, the fastest car around the track was the Golf at 1 minute 22 second .113. Second was the the C28, 1 minute 22.479, and the 1M at 1 minute 22 seconds .489. Slowest out of the bunch was actually the Mercedes-Benz at 1 minute 24.847. Tetsel Valley, however, which I featured the upgraded ones, the C63 was the fastest one with 1 minute 53 seconds .337, compared to the slowest time, which I did in the Ford Mach 1 at 2 minute 2 seconds .612. Yeah, so basically there you have it. It's been a long video, but it's finally time to come to the conclusion. So, is it worth the money? No. Basically all you get is new livery for the cars, and none of them, like the rest of the DLC released, well, except one DLC, is upgradable. Performance-wise, they're not really competitive either. Sure, on some tracks you can probably manage to keep up, but for the most part they're quite much slower than their tier 2 cars upgraded, as you've seen. Basically all DLC is good for players who's starting out the multiplayer until you can afford a real tier 2 or tier 3 car or tier 4 car. Because you have to meet the level requirement in order to buy it, and then you have to level up 2 times more to upgrade it. So DLC is probably good for people that, you know, at the lower levels feel like they want to have a better fighting chance with cars. But apart from that, yeah, I really can't say I think anyone should get this if you're not the die-hard collector or likewise. What I can speak of, however, is if they're leaderboard material. If you're into the whole leaderboard thingy, they might actually hold some value, so I'll leave that part out. Maybe someone knows and can tell how they compare. If you do, just leave something here in the comments. But if your thing is multiplayer racing, I'd say nah, save your money. I hope that you really liked this video. Please leave a comment below with anything you liked or anything you disliked in the video, or if you have any other comment. And the other planned reviews for the other DLC will be shorter, so not more than, say, somewhere between 3 to 5 minutes or so. So don't be scared off by this lengthy video. Alright, I hope you found anything of this useful. This DLC is called Peak Performance Pack and is available for €4 at Steam. Alright, Thanks for watching, and have a great time.